I stood there frozen, the front door still half open behind me. My suitcase slipped from my fingers, thudding on the hardwood like a final punctuation mark. The crate where I left Charlie, our 10-year-old beagle, was empty. Just an open gate and a note taped to the wire. Maybe now you'll stop expecting people to give a damn. My breath hitched. I read it again. Same messy handwriting. No signature. Just spite inked in black Sharpie. Charlie was gone. The living room was spotless, unnaturally so. I knew something was off the moment I stepped inside. No dog hair on the rug. No bowl by the door. No leash hanging on the wall hook. I backed up, like I could step outside and walk into another version of my life where this didn't just happen. The house was too quiet. A voice upstairs broke the silence. Laughter. Soft. A man's voice. Then hers. Shuh, she giggled. He's not due back until tomorrow morning. You've got time. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just listened. Like my mind refused to accept what it already knew. My wife, Madison, was upstairs. Not alone. And I had come home a day early from a conference in Denver, catching an earlier flight because I missed my bed. Missed our stupid rituals, late-night ramen, trash TV marathons, Charlie nudging us for couch space. I didn't even make it halfway up the stairs. My knees felt like someone knocked them out from behind. That note. That damn note on the crate. I had spent 2 full years, babysitting my nephew, Liam, every single weekend for free. No complaints. No breaks. No favors returned. Just me playing the good uncle while Madison's sister, Heather, ran off to yoga retreats and wine weekends with her friends. And the one time I asked for help, just a weekend to watch Charlie while I flew out, Heather laughed in my face. I'm not your assistant, she scoffed. Madison just stood there and nodded. You can't expect people to owe you, she said. Like I was being entitled for asking her family for a single favor. I had driven to the airport that morning with that sentence burning through my skull. And now here I was, standing in the dark hallway of my own house, hearing the woman I'd given the last 8 years of my life to, in our bed, with someone else. No more hypotheticals. No more doubt. I turned, quiet, retracing my steps down the stairs, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone as I opened the camera app. I didn't want to, but I needed to. The sounds from above grew louder, more reckless, like they had no fear of being caught. Like I didn't even exist. My phone trembled in my hand. I should have left. I should have stormed in. I should have screamed. But all I did was hit record and whisper to myself. This is who she really is. Because the note on the crate? It wasn't just about Charlie. It was her way of saying she'd stopped caring a long time ago. And I was the last to find out. I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't even feel angry yet. What I felt was a kind of dull burn. Like I'd swallowed something toxic and it was settling deep, poisoning slowly. I ended up in the parking lot of an all-night diner. I didn't go inside. Just sat there, staring at the blinking neon sign that buzzed like a mosquito in the dark. The image of that note wouldn't leave my mind. The way she'd taken my kindness, years of babysitting her sister's kid without a complaint, and flipped it into some twisted justification to erase part of my life. Charlie wasn't a dog to me. He was my best friend. He'd been there before Madison. He was there when my dad passed. He was there every time I had a rough week. And now he was gone, discarded like trash. I knew, deep down, she had something to do with it. Either directly or she let it happen. Because Madison was strategic, calculated. She didn't do chaos. If Charlie vanished, she made it vanish. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I watched the footage. The one I recorded from the stairs. I forced myself to hear it all. His voice, her moans, the way she whispered his name like it was some romantic secret. It wasn't the betrayal that gutted me. It was the comfort. She sounded happy. Natural. Like this wasn't a mistake. It was a routine. At 6:23 a.m., I drove back to the house. When I stepped inside, Madison was in the kitchen, making coffee like it was any other Sunday. She wore one of my shirts, humming under her breath. Her hair was still damp from a shower. She didn't even flinch when she saw me. You're back early, she said, sipping her mug. Flight get moved. I just stood there. She tilted her head. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I saw more than that. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Just 10 seconds. Enough for her voice to come through. Clear. Intimate. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't panic. Didn't scream. Just sipped again and said, you shouldn't have come back early. That's on you. I blinked. That's on me. I asked, my voice barely holding together. She shrugged. I mean, you weren't supposed to be here. It would have saved you the drama. Where's Charlie? I said. My tone dropped. I didn't care about anything else in that moment. I needed to know. She rolled her eyes. He's fine. Heather found a place for him. Somewhere more fitting. Honestly, I never liked that dog. The punch I felt in my gut at that moment didn't come from the words. It came from the ease in her voice. Like it was just another Tuesday. I stepped closer, fist clenched. So you just gave him away? Just like that. She crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. You act like I killed him. Maybe if you were more focused on me instead of that mutt, I wouldn't have needed other company. There it was. The mask finally slipped. All those months where she said she was working late. The sudden cold shoulders. The way she twisted every argument to make me feel guilty for even breathing wrong. She wanted me to break first. She wanted me to be the one who snapped, so she could play the victim. But she underestimated just how much I'd been paying attention. Who is he? I asked. She didn't answer right away. She took a long sip. Then, with a smirk, let's just say he doesn't whine every time I leave the room. I walked out. Didn't say another word. I knew if I stayed, I'd say something that would tear the last shreds of me apart. I needed space. Not to process the betrayal, but to decide how far I was willing to go now that I had nothing left to lose. I didn't go back to my place. Not right away. I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town, the kind with flickering hallway lights and a vending machine that only took quarters. I needed somewhere to breathe, somewhere without the smell of her perfume clinging to the furniture or the ghost of my dog's paws tapping down the hall. For 2 days, I didn't speak to anyone. I let every call from Madison go straight to voicemail. By the 5th message, her voice had already shifted from indifferent to annoyed. You can't just disappear. We have bills. I need the Wi-Fi password. By the 8th message, she didn't bother pretending anymore. You're acting like a child. Grow up. If you want to talk about this like adults, come home. Like adults? She tossed our dog, our vows, and my sanity into a trash bag, and now she wanted to talk. I finally texted her sister. I kept it simple. Where's Charlie? She replied 2 hours later. You gave up your right to know when you tried to make me your dog sitter. He's safe. That was it. Safe. I wanted to punch through drywall. I didn't care that she was my wife's sister. Didn't care that she used to bring me pie on Thanksgiving, or that I spent 2 years cleaning up her kid's snot and changing diapers while she was too hungover to drive. What I cared about was that she, and Madison, treated me like some doormat that stopped being useful the second I said, hey, can you return the favor just once? The 3rd day, I went home. Not to reconcile. To collect. I walked in at 10 a.m., and she was on the couch with a glass of wine. Before noon, she looked up and smiled like nothing ever happened. There he is. Got it all out of your system. I didn't answer. I walked past her, straight to the bedroom. Grabbed the fireproof box from under the bed. Inside, my documents, the title to my car, the backup hard drive with our financials, and the pre-signed papers from when we refinanced the house, my house, that I owned before we got married. I grabbed everything and walked toward the front door. You're just gonna leave like that? She called from behind me. I stopped. Not because her voice meant anything, but because of what I saw. Her phone, face up on the table. A new message lighting up the screen. Can't wait for Friday night. She's still buying it. I turned. Still buying what? She raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. Your phone? I said, pointing. Text just came in. Want to guess who sent it? For the first time, her face twitched. Not guilt. Not fear. Just that flicker of irritation, like a chess player who just realized they'd miscalculated. She stood up slowly. It's none of your business. It was my business. Before you torched it. Fine, she said, arms crossed. You want to know? He's better than you. He listens. He doesn't guilt-trip me over dumb stuff. And he doesn't cry over a mutt. I nodded, slowly. You done? I asked. No, she snapped. You made me feel invisible for years, Daniel. Always off in your own world. Always playing the martyr. Well, congratulations. You finally got something to be sad about. I opened the door. Madison? She tilted her chin, smug. You're gonna regret. But I didn't let her finish. I threw the note from Charlie's crate onto the floor in front of her. This is gonna live with you. Longer than I ever will. Then I shut the door and walked away from the wreckage she called love. The days after that were quiet in a way I wasn't used to. Not peaceful. Just hollow. like someone had taken a carving knife to the inside of my chest and scooped out everything that used to be solid. I stayed with my friend Marcus for a while. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and let me sit in silence while a football game played on mute in the background. That kind of friendship doesn't need words. But silence can't hide you forever. The first email came 3 days later. Madison again. Subject line: we need to talk about the house. The body just said, you can't just take everything. We built that life together. I want what's fair. Fair? She took Charlie. She took my trust. She dragged my name through the dirt in her sister's group chat. Yeah, I saw the screenshots Marcus dug up. Heather and 2 of Madison's friends mocking me like I was some clueless idiot too dumb to see he was being cheated on for months. One message even said, let him take the dog. It's the only child he'll ever have. I didn't reply. I printed the email and taped it next to my laptop as a reminder. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a bad patch. This was Ward dressed up in yoga pants and scented candles. The lawyer I hired didn't flinch when I told him what happened. He'd seen worse. He told me I had every right to go after the house. It was mine before the marriage. She never contributed to the mortgage. She didn't even pay the utilities most months. I just want this over with, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Revenge? No. Closure. But maybe I lied. Maybe I did want a little revenge. So I made a few calls. Reached out to Heather's ex, the one she used to trash endlessly for being a narcissist. Turns out he was the one taking care of Charlie now. Heather dropped him off at his place in the middle of the night, claiming she couldn't handle the responsibility. I met him in a park. He brought Charlie on a red leash, tail wagging, tongue out. The moment that dog saw me, he bolted so hard he nearly dragged the man off his feet. That was the first time I broke. Right there on a park bench, hugging my dog like he'd just returned from war. You okay, man? The ex asked. I wiped my face. I am now. That night, I sent Madison a photo. Just Charlie on my lap, asleep. No caption. No explanation. Just proof. She replied within a minute. So you think this makes you better than me? I blocked her number. The next few weeks were full of paperwork, meetings, and short, cold conversations between lawyers. She wanted half. I offered her 10% and her clothes. My lawyer was ruthless. Efficient. Just like I needed him to be. Eventually, she caved. I didn't celebrate. What was there to celebrate? The life I thought I had was dead. Gone before I even realized it was terminal. But at least now, I wasn't pretending anymore. One night, Marcus asked if I ever missed her. I thought about it for a long time before answering. No. I miss who I thought she was. But that woman never existed. It was like mourning a ghost that never had a name. A few months passed. The house was officially mine again, though it felt less like home and more like a crime scene scrubbed clean. I changed the locks, got rid of the furniture, repainted every room, anything that had her fingerprints, her scent, her echoes. I even tossed the wine glasses. She always drank white. Charlie adjusted faster than I did. Dogs are like that. Give them safety, food, and love, and they forgive. Humans, on the other hand, we carry shards. The thing is, when someone betrays you that deeply, it's not just the memory of what they did that sticks with you. It's the way they made you doubt yourself. The rewiring. The moments where you remember all the signs you ignored. Like the night she'd be on her phone in bed, screen turned away from me. The weird smile she gave when she got a text and didn't want me to see. The way her tone shifted when I walked into a room mid-call. She gaslit me so gently, so precisely, I didn't even feel the walls closing in. You're too sensitive. I'm just tired. Maybe if you weren't so needy. The subtle cruelty of her love, it was in the way she made everything feel like my fault. Like I had to earn what was supposed to be given freely. That's what haunts me the most. Not the betrayal. Not even losing Charlie for a while. But how easily she made me feel like a burden in my own life. I started therapy. I didn't tell anyone. Just sat across from a woman named Ellen with soft eyes and no judgment, and told her everything. She listened. Then she said something that hit harder than any insult Madison ever threw at me. She made you think love was something you had to barter for. It stuck with me. Because she was right. All those weekends watching Liam for free? I didn't do it because I wanted to be generous. I did it because I thought it would buy me love. Buy me value. Make me matter. It didn't. Not to her. To Madison, I was a resource. A stepping stool. And when I asked for something in return, just one weekend for help, she exposed everything. It's wild how someone's true character reveals itself the second you stop being useful to them. One night, I ran into her at the grocery store. It had been maybe 6 months since everything fell apart. She looked different. Same hair, same walk, but the shine was gone. She wore a fake smile, pushing a half-empty cart. She said, "Hey." I just nodded. There was this pause. She wanted to say more. I could tell, but didn't know how. "You look good," she finally said. I stared at her for a beat too long. Then I just said, "Yeah, I do," and walked away. Not to be cold, not to be dramatic, but because that was the moment I realized I was free. Not from her. From needing her to see me. From needing anyone like her to tell me I was worth it. The morning after that grocery store run-in, I woke up feeling something I hadn't in a long time. Stillness. Not numbness. Not distraction. Just quiet. The kind that doesn't ache. The kind that doesn't claw at your ribs while you pretend to be okay in public. Charlie snored beside me on the bed, his paws twitching in some dream. I lay there, watching the sunlight creep through the blinds, and it hit me. I wasn't waiting for an apology anymore. Not from Madison. Not from Heather. Not from anyone. I wasn't waiting for the moment where they'd come crawling back or admit they were wrong. That chapter had closed, and for once, I wasn't standing in the ashes hoping it would light back up. One afternoon, I finally gathered the last box of her things from the garage. A few books, some scarves, and a framed photo of us in Cabo, her favorite trip. She looked perfect in the picture. Effortless smile, windblown hair, those big sunglasses she used to swear made her look rich. I stared at it for a second too long. Then I opened the trash bin and dropped it in. Just like that. It didn't hurt. It didn't free me either. But it felt right. I think people imagine healing as some kind of dramatic moment, a breakdown in the rain or a montage set to sad music. But for me, it was smaller. Quieter. It was going to the store without bracing for a run-in. It was making dinner for one without feeling pathetic. It was coming home to silence and not trying to fill it with noise. It was remembering that peace doesn't come when everything's fixed. It comes when you finally stop bleeding. And then, something unexpected happened. Heather's ex, the guy who helped me get Charlie back, sent me a message. "FYI, Madison's telling people you cheated. Thought you should know." I stared at it, blinked a few times, then laughed. Out loud. That kind of bitter, breathy laugh that comes from knowing exactly who someone is and realizing they'll never change. I didn't reply. I didn't care. She could spin it however she wanted. Make herself the victim in 1,000 retellings. Because the truth? It doesn't need defending. It just waits. It outlasts every version of the lie. And if anyone believed her version of me, then they never really knew me to begin with. So let them go too. Eventually, I went back into the dating world. Slowly. Cautiously. Not because I needed someone to fix the holes, but because I'd finally patched most of them myself. I took a woman named Claire out to coffee one day. She laughed at my awkward joke about Charlie being a better conversationalist than most people. She didn't flinch when I said I'd been through a rough divorce. She just nodded and said, "Yeah, me too." It was nice. Not electric. Not fireworks. But honest. And after everything, that was more than enough. Some nights, I still think about the old life. Not with longing, but with curiosity. Like looking at a scar and trying to remember what it felt like when it was fresh. And when people ask me what happened, I just say, I stopped begging someone to love me, and she hated that. It's not the full story, but it's the truth. One rainy Saturday, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. Daniel. The voice was hesitant. It was Liam, Madison's nephew. The kid I used to babysit every weekend, back when I was still trying to be part of that family. His voice was deeper now, older. 2 years can do that. I found your number on an old paper in my mom's drawer. I hope it's okay. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice calm. Yeah, of course, buddy. You okay? He paused. I just wanted to say thank you. I didn't move. Just stared out the window at the rain dripping down the glass. I remember you used to take me to that park near the ice cream truck, he said. I thought you were the coolest guy ever. You actually listened. I smiled, bitter and warm all at once. I remember that. She said you didn't want to see us anymore. That you just bailed. But I figured, maybe that wasn't true. It wasn't, I said quietly. Silence filled the line. Then he said something I'll never forget. She was lying a lot. Huh? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. You were my favorite adult, he said. That's all. He hung up before I could say anything else. I sat there with the phone in my hand long after the call ended. Madison could twist the story however she wanted. She could call me a villain, a coward, a cheat. But the truth had its way of slipping through, finding the cracks, even in a 12-year-old boy's voice. Later that night, I found the old photo I almost threw away months ago. Me and Liam at the park. He's holding a balloon, grinning. I'm crouched next to him with Charlie between us. That moment was real. No lies. No manipulation. Just joy. I framed it. Not to remember the past, but to remind myself I was good. I was real. And nothing she did could erase that. The final piece of closure didn't come with a court document or a new relationship. It came with acceptance. Accepting that not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. That love isn't owed, it's nurtured. That giving your all to someone doesn't guarantee they'll value it. And that sometimes, the person you were with was never really with you to begin with. Now, when people ask what happened, I say, I used to think loyalty was enough. Turns out, it only matters if it's mutual. I don't babysit Liam anymore. I don't talk to Madison. I never saw her again after that day in the grocery store. But I sleep well. And when Charlie curls up at the foot of the bed and lets out a long sigh, I know we both made it out. Whole. Scarred, sure. But finally free. Spring rolled in quietly that year. No announcements. No fireworks. Just open windows, warmer mornings, and the kind of silence that didn't feel empty anymore. One evening, I took Charlie out for a walk through the neighborhood we used to stroll together, me, Madison, and him. But this time, it felt different. Lighter. I didn't flinch at the sight of familiar houses. I didn't expect to see her car parked on some driveway. She was gone from here. Not just physically. Gone from the narrative. From the weight of every memory that used to cling to these streets. A woman on her porch waved at me as I passed. I waved back. She smiled at Charlie, and he trotted a little closer to her fence, tail wagging like he'd known her for years. Beautiful dog, she said. Thanks, I replied. He's the reason I kept going. She nodded, like she understood more than I said out loud. Back home, I opened my journal. I hadn't written in it since the night I left Madison. Flipping through the pages was like reading someone else's grief. The heartbreak, the confusion, the anger, it didn't feel like mine anymore. So I turned to the last page, and I wrote. I gave someone everything I had, and she threw it away. But I didn't break. I learned. I grew. I lost people, but I found myself. That's the trade I never expected, but maybe the one I needed. I closed the journal. In the kitchen, a pot of coffee finished brewing. I poured a cup, stepped outside, and let the breeze hit my face. I didn't need to chase closure anymore. I was the closure. No revenge. No final confrontation. Just a man, a dog, and a peace earned the hard way. And if I ever run into her again, somewhere on the street, in line at a store, I'll smile. Not for her. For me. Because I survived what was meant to ruin me. And I came out of it not bitter. But better.